What if I told you that the smartphone in your pocket, the electric car you're driving, and the advanced military jets that defend our nation all share a single fatal vulnerability? And what if that vulnerability was controlled almost entirely by one rival? It all started on October 11th, 2025. In a sudden burst of fury that shattered months of fragile diplomacy, President Trump took to his signature social media platform to accuse China of a deeply hostile and deceptive act. For 6 months, he said, Beijing had pretended to seek better relations while secretly plotting a massive strike against the US. He called it a moral disgrace. This wasn't just talk, it kicked off a fierce new chapter in the US-China trade war. Trump's response was explosive. Effective November 1st, or possibly sooner, the US would slap a staggering 100% additional tariff on all Chinese goods, pushing the total to a prohibitive 130%. The American market, the world's biggest consumer base, was suddenly off limits for Chinese products. He also threatened strict software export controls to cut off vital US tech from China's industry. The fallout was immediate. The planned Trump-Xi meeting at the APEC summit in South Korea canceled. Trump said there was no point in talking anymore. But he hinted at US leverage too, reminding everyone that while China dominates one key area, America has its own monopolies and is ready to use them. What triggered this? Just 2 days prior, on October 9th, China's Ministry of Commerce dropped its bombshell. It wasn't a full ban on rare earth elements, those 17 crucial metals powering modern tech, but a sophisticated new licensing system. Exporters now need government approval for a broad range of rare earths and derivatives. They added 5 heavy rare earths: holmium, erbium, thulium, europium, and ytterbium, bringing the total controlled to 12 out of 17, the ones vital for high-tech and defense. The rules are sweeping. Any product with even 0.1% Chinese origin rare earth needs a license to ship anywhere. Since China processes nearly everything, this hits global electronics hard. They also restricted exports of mining and refining tech, blocking others from building rival industries. It's not just the present, they're locking down the future. Even scarier for manufacturers. A foreign company, like an Indian magnet maker using Chinese rare earths, can't sell its products globally without Beijing's okay, or risk losing supply. China demanded pledges from countries like India not to re-export to the US, forcing neutrals to pick sides. And starting November 8th, this extends to lithium-ion batteries, graphite anodes, and synthetic diamonds for semiconductors. China is methodically gripping every key part of the 21st century economy. Okay, just letting you know, I talk about global politics every day, so subscribe to not miss out. The market reaction was brutal. After Trump's announcement, Wall Street lost $1.5 trillion in a day, worse than COVID's peak crash. Nasdaq fell 3.6%, Nvidia 4.5%, AMD 5.2%, Tesla 6.1%. Why? These rely on rare earths for chips and magnets. Crypto got hammered too. Bitcoin down 10 to 11%, Ethereum 12%, Solana 14%, Ripple 20%. Mining rigs use those same semiconductors, so China's move threatened the digital economy's foundation. To grasp how one policy could erase trillions overnight, we must understand rare earth elements. They're not scarce in the Earth's crust, but their unique properties, magnetic, catalytic, luminescent, make them irreplaceable. They're in defense. An F-35 jet uses 900 pounds, a destroyer 5,200, a sub 9,200. They're in missiles, sonar, drones. Without them, modern militaries grind to a halt. In civilian life, they're everywhere. Semiconductors, EV motors, neodymium and dysprosium magnets, MRIs, lasers, cancer drugs, phone screens, oil refining, fiber optics, wind turbines, microwaves, 5G. Remove them and we're pre-digital. China's control is total. 69% of mining, 85% of light rare earth refining, 100% of heavy rare earths. Over 60% of global EVs are Chinese-made. BYD overtook Tesla. An EV uses just 1.5 to 4 kilograms of rare earth magnets, but without that tiny amount, no car. This monopoly wasn't luck. It was a 50-year strategy. America led in the mid-20th century with California's Mountain Pass mine, key for color TVs, scanners, lasers, chips. But in the 1960s, Chinese engineers visited and learned. With cheap, subsidized power and zero environmental regs, China surged ahead while the West cleaned up. US blunders helped. 1980s regs misclassified rare earths with thorium, hiking costs. 1997 spills shut Mountain Pass's plant. China flooded the market from buy on obo, 40% of reserves, crashing prices and bankrupting competitors. Germany and Japan moved ops there. In 1998, GM sold its neodymium magnet division, strongest magnets ever, to a group tied to Deng Xiaoping's family. The whole facility shipped to China. We handed over the keys. But China's win came at horrific cost. In southern China, in-situ leaching drilled holes, pumped toxic chemicals like ammonium sulfate and sulfuric acid to dissolve ore, collecting poisonous sludge. It was cheap, but catastrophic. Aquifers poisoned, rivers yellow and dead, soil barren, landslides burying villages, air thick with radioactive dust, thorium, uranium. By 2000, 247 cancer villages appeared near mines, with soaring rates of osteoporosis, respiratory ills, skin diseases, birth defects. China sacrificed its people for supremacy. Realizing it wasn't sustainable, Beijing imposed quotas in 2011 for cleanup, but really to control supply and prices. This sparked smuggling, but they consolidated into 6 state giants via 1+5 campaign, audits, seizures, even explosives on illegal ops. By 2015, they had total control. Globals like Tesla, Apple, Volkswagen relocated to China to survive. China weaponized it first in 2010. After a Japan-China boat clash, they cut rare earth exports to Japan for 2 months, slashed global quotas 40%. Prices exploded. Dysprosium oxide from $91 per kilogram to $2,377 per kilogram. Factories froze, panic hit tech and defense. The US, Japan, EU woke up. This was a geopolitical weapon. The October 2025 events were the culmination. But updates as of today, October 13th, Trump softened his tone yesterday, posting, "Don't worry about China, it will all be fine," and calling Xi highly respected. China defended its controls as legitimate, urged the US to correct erroneous practices, and warned of retaliation. Markets rebounded slightly in futures, but tension lingers ahead of potential talks. Facing this, the West grapples with huge challenges. First, dependency on Chinese tech. For 30 years, only China advanced refining, so Western projects bought their machines, manuals, engineers. The new ban on exporting that gear means rebuilding from scratch, years and billions delayed. A spin caster for alloys, parts were often Chinese, now design your own. Second, tiny non-Chinese capacity. US imports 80% from China. Pentagon gave MP Materials, revived Mountain Pass, $44.6 million for separation plants, aiming for 1,000 tons of neodymium magnets by 2025 versus China's 138,000 in 2018. Lynas in Australia got $150 million for Texas plants, but full scale is years away. Australia mines but refines in China until at least 2026. We're starting weak. Geopolitical race. China secures reserves globally. In Myanmar, post-2021 coup, illegal mining in Kachin supplies 60% of China's heavy rare earths, funding the civil war. China closes borders to control factions. In Greenland, Chinese firms stake claims like Quanavenge, partnering on uranium separation. US has Tanbreeze, mined $3 billion, backed by Exim Bank, but harsh terrain and regs slow it. India has 7.23 million tons, but no refining independence. Financial barriers. China can flood markets, crashing prices and bankrupting competitors. Investors shy away without subsidies. Recycling. DoD invested $4.2 million in bulb extraction, but it's costly and small scale. Yet, hope emerges. The West's counter, reshoring via 2024 defense strategy. Full US mine-to-magnet chain by 2027. $439 million invested in MP and Lynas. Innovation. Tesla cut rare earth 25%, ZF made magnet-free motors, Toyota reduced content. Niron Magnetics uses iron nitrogen for zero rare earth magnets. Backed by GM, Stellantis, and Volvo, factories for millions of EVs by 2029. Change the rules if you can't win. Alliances. Australia's Browns range for dysprosium outside China, Vietnam, Saudi, untapped. Coordinate investments, tech sharing, offtakes for diverse chains. This isn't a spat, it's chess. Xi flexed rare earth to expose US vulnerability. Trump flipped the table for strength optics. But China's 80% domestic consumption and Belt and Road markets means US loss hurts 5% of magnets, but isn't fatal. With Trump's recent softening and China's defiance, de-escalation might follow, but the core fight persists. The road ahead: rebuild ecosystems, innovate bypasses, forge partnerships. This battle will define 21st century tech.